Welcome to a new daily top AskReddit video. Today's topic:
how can you tell you're entering the deep south in the US? A sign that says hot-boiled peanuts. There's one near me that calls them peanuts. I live in the deep south. About a half mile up the road is a guy in a semi-truck trailer on the side of the road with a hand-painted sign that just says "Cuzz's Nuts." I stop by from time to time to get his Cajun boiled peanuts. They are phenomenal. He doesn't have set days or times. You know he is open if smoke is coming from his 55-gallon drum. There will be billboards for Jesus next to billboards for strip clubs. Jesus is real, we have proof. Followed by liquid cannabis in cans. Turn right next exit. What more proof do you need? Waffle houses start being at every exit. One each side, for easy access. For those unfamiliar with the area, this is not a joke. I am from New Orleans, and I was living in Boston. I was driving back to New Orleans for a family emergency, basically just driving alone with minimal stops. At another random rest area I got out of the car to walk my dog, and the first person I saw gave me a nod and said, "How's it going?" I hadn't been spoken to by a stranger on the street in months. It was jarred. That was how I realized I was back in the South. This is it, exactly. It's the one characteristic of folks down here that I definitely missed when I lived in the PNW. Acknowledging a stranger's existence is the norm. Folk don't just talk to others on the street. I've only lived in the South my entire life, and I just find it weird not to say hi if we made eye contact. Or even a friendly nod with a minimum of, hi, at the very least. Hell, I got into a conversation with a lady the other day at the gas station while trying to figure out what I wanted to drink, followed by a, "See you later." No idea who she was, probably will never see her again. It's just what I'm used to. Every convenience store clerk wants you to have a blessed day. Not blessed, it's blessed. I don't know about other parts of the Deep South, but in Alabama and Georgia, it's blessed day. If you get off the interstate and go local roads, you just see mobile home, church, cemetery, mobile home, church, cemetery, Dollar General, mobile home, church, cemetery, Piggly Wiggly, mobile home, church, cemetery, Walmart. You're missing gun stores, pawn shops, liquor stores, and McDonald's. And a few more churches. South of the border on I-95. I stopped there. Sure, it's a blatant tourist trap. But if you have small kids, it's a nice break for them. It's also a great place to stop if you are heading to Myrtle Beach with a car full of college-age kids. Just don't eat the chili dogs. The tackiest rendition of Six Flags Over Mexico one can see. The border between Northern Virginia and real Virginia is the Cracker Barrel sign in Fredericksburg. Northern Virginia and real Virginia, rolling on the floor laughing, rolling on the floor laughing. It's so true. That's just how the DMV do, though. You meet redneck black people. I worked with a redneck Filipino once. He lived in Louisiana, had a mullet, a primer gray 70s Camaro, and lived a trailer that he lost in a divorce, so he moved into a shed on his brother's property where he lifted homemade weights outside all day. This was a wild ride, LMAO. The primer gray really sets the tone. I had never seen a black man ride a horse, except police, until I moved to Baton Rouge. Once saw a black man ride a horse into a Sonic stall in New Roads, 30 miles NW of Baton Rouge for those unfamiliar with the area. It's a lot of black cowboys all over the South. Boiled peanuts, pronounced bald peanuts, but spelled boiled peanuts. Yelp's highest rated restaurant in the county is a grill biscuit spot inside a gas station. Best food you'll ever eat, half the time. The other half, well, I got served by a very obvious old meth head lady who faked having a heart attack halfway through breakfast service in order to get sympathy and maybe extort a larger tip. I ended up getting my own food from the kitchen while she sat on a bar stool and drank water while crying about how hard her life was. It was 90+ degrees inside. Probably should have walked out when I greeted her with, "How's your day going?" and she went, "Oh, just terrible, hun, I'm having a tough time." Quite a good introduction to the Carolinas. My second stop was late at night and the gas station had reinforced windows and wire, and a big lady shuffled her way over towards me as I pumped gas and said, "You shouldn't be here." The golf was great. 4/5 trip. Grits are on the menu in restaurants. Also, iced tea is a glucose drip. You have to ask for unsweet tea. Sometimes server will recognize that you are a Yankee and offer you unsweet tea on the first round. Y'all can drink unsweetened tea, but I can't imagine why y'all would. The way the Lord intended. The harder people are to understand, the deeper you're gettin'. There's an island off the coast of Georgia that speaks its own language. I think you're referring to Gullah Geechee, right? I learned about it a couple of years ago. It also stretches up into SC and NC. I'm Canadian and had to change planes in Atlanta once. I was so embarrassed how much I had to ask folks in the airport to repeat themselves. I swear that's not the same English I learned. Atlanta is mild compared to rural parts of the South, or Appalachia, which is a pretty different accent entirely. Although people lump everything together as Southern accent, there are lots of different flavors that are quite different. Spanish Moss. That's deep, deep South. You have the South, the Deep South and the very Deep South. Spanish Moss is very deep South. Yeah, that's like coastal Georgia and South Carolina and parts of Florida. The vegetation changes drastically as you drive south through Georgia. It goes from normal deciduous forest to swamp, bog-looking areas to palm trees. The gas stations will have better food than the restaurants. And the more run down and sketchy looking the gas station is, the better the food will be. Hands down, the best wings in my town come from a gas station that also sells fishing bait. Drove down to Georgia to visit my sister. We stopped on the way and I saw a sign in a window that said, "Fried bologna is back." I figured that was a pretty good metric. Fried bologna is so good too. Don't knock it till you try it. Especially with a slice of heirloom tomato and some Duke's mayo. Boiled peanuts for sale at the gas stations. And when you see your first Bookies billboard 200 miles away from the actual Bookies. Red clay. Between this comment and the ones about the Jesus and strip club billboards, and Waffle House, apparently Ohio is the Deep South. Pretty much anything outside of a major metro area has some South vibes. The South just has more South things. Until you get to Canada, then the further north you go the more South it gets. Yes, it is. The fucking humidity. Biscuits instead of toast with breakfast, biscuits instead of dinner, rolls with supper. That it's called supper instead of dinner. Suddenly Bookies, Zaxby's and Waffle House signs are everywhere and there's, "Are you injured?" Lawyer billboards every 20 feet on the highway. Do you guys in the South get hurt a lot? Yes, we do. Too many assholes driving, with no insurance, causing the most damage. Kudzu. In 20 years the South is just going to be kudzu and mimosa trees. And bamboo. When they tell you, muchacho aquí no hay nada, you definitely went too far. What do you mean, where's my passport? What the hell's a green card? In a deep Southern accent. Sorry, you look like a Paco. Quote, that was an exchange between a friend, born and raised in rural Georgia, and a border patrol guy who had pulled him over in Texas. Bojangles. It's been over 20 years since I have had a Bojangles chicken biscuit. I really need an excuse to go down south and get one. We just got one in my Ohio city. I am addicted. Going by these comments, I'm deeper in the South than I thought. LMAO. Me too. I didn't realize trees covered in Spanish moss wasn't just a normal thing. You start to see come to Jesus billboards every few miles. The deeper south you go, the more you see. This is anywhere 15 minutes outside of a city. We have some in southeast TN, North Georgia, that are literally just huge billboards that read, Jesus, and nothing else. Live in chat and see these frequently. Every time I see one I scream, Jesus. At the top of my lungs like it's an expletive. My wife is usually half asleep and does not find it amusing. We have these in rural Washington state. Well, it can only mean that Washington state is deep south. My grandmother, South Alabama, would write, sweet milk, on her grocery list. This meant regular milk instead of buttermilk. Front porch people sitting and snapping beans while they wave at folks driving down the road. Driving over a bridge and seeing kids swimming in the creek below. Screen doors on mom and pop gas stations that close by 6 p.m. The gas station, not the doors, full service optional gas stations, although I haven't seen one of those in a few years. My grandmother has been gone since 2017, and while many people think Southerners are idiots, and some absolutely are, this post has brought back many sweet memories. Thank you for that. $2 million house plopped right between two double wides. As someone from the Deep South, New Orleans, and a truck driver, I always forget how shitty our roads are until I go into Arkansas or further north. Shreveport has by far the worst roads I have ever driven across. Nothing says welcome to Louisiana on I-20 East like hitting your head on the top of the ceiling every 15 seconds. FJB and Confederate flag bumper stickers. Dual axle dually pickup trucks. Massive crosses you can see from the highway. Waffle House 90 degrees Fahrenheit plus, high humidity, and you'll see dudes walking around wearing boots, a hoodie and jeans. Black folks casually strolling through town on horseback. I'm black and never seen a black person on a horse until I moved down south. Closing parenthesis. Dual axle pickup trucks. Wouldn't that just be a pickup truck? He's probably referring to dual rear axles, although those are certainly not exclusive to the South. Lots and lots of churches. And all the directions you get always have, at the church. It's all I can do not to say, do you know how many fucking churches we have? Question mark. The extreme mix of heat and humidity. Even in December. Drive-through liquor stores. Isn't this literally only in Louisiana? The Deep South is a lot more than that, and generally has overly restrictive liquor laws. There's a couple in Georgia. I've seen them mostly in South Georgia around Brunswick and the Golden Isles. I see them in Ohio. I just want to say this has been fun. It's obvious the most exposure most of y'all have had to the South is passing through on your way to Disney. I'm not from the South, hell, I'm from a whole different country, but I married someone from the South, driven through her hometown, met the people she grew up with, experienced a tiny bit of the South. And sure, all the answers here don't encompass everything that makes the South what it is. But they aren't wrong, either. All of these things exist more so in the South than northern states. I lived in Mississippi twice, also Alabama and North Florida. In North Florida I was half a block from the Georgia line. Most of these posts are not wrong. Yep, lived in rural NW Georgia for over a decade. Most of the posts are spot on.